my name is Sage Simone, also known as a Sage Named Simone. So join me on my journey as I bring my inner voice to center stage. It's about the walk of remembering the medicine of and to my soul, and sharing stories about self-care, self-reflection, and overall spiritual journey on finding home within myself, finding home within my heart, and doing so within community. So I set a goal to create this podcast, video cast, to share the stories in hopes to share my stories in hopes of other people getting in touch with their own. We all have a story to share. We all have medicine within us. Let's get uncomfortable. First, start everything with, you know how the old people used to be like, you didn't walk in that room and didn't ask anybody how they was doing. You didn't speak to nobody. So how is everyone doing? I am doing okay. That's it. I'm doing okay. It's been a roller coaster of emotions the past few weeks. I made some big decisions. Transitioned out of my job, and I did it without a plan. Okay, no, I have a plan. I did it without a clear position. I didn't do it knowing that I was moving into this job. I did it knowing that I was moving into a new season of my life and it was necessary. So I'm okay, because while that is great, and I'm excited and I'm celebrating this change in my life, I'm also really nervous because what the hell? No, I have somewhat of a plan, but it doesn't sound like my plan is what's the plan is, because my plan was to wait it out a little longer, but God has other plans for me, and so we're about to shift into a new season of life. Let me just say that. So, yeah, that was one of the things I used to do in college. I didn't do it intentionally. I didn't really know I did it, but we would go to lunch and I would ask everyone, how's everyone's day today? And so one of my friends used to make fun of me about doing that, and I'm like, you know what, that's a good habit to have. How are you doing today? And so it really, holistically, it brought me to the idea of getting back to listening to people's stories, listening to how people are actually doing. I think for the last few years, I've been so caught up in my needs in my life and all these transitions and all these things that are happening within me that I haven't been as intentional with connecting to what's happening in other people. And so, yeah, I'm being more intentional about that now and asking, how is everyone's day? How are things going? How are you feeling? Like, what's going on in your life? So this season is going to be about a call to self. And so we all go through these seasons where we look up and we wonder what the hell is happening. Currently going through one. Didn't know I was going through one when I came up with this episode, but here we are. And so we start asking questions like, when did it change? When did this happen? We no longer feel like the person we were yesterday. We don't even recognize where we're going. And you wonder if anybody is actually listening. Like, are they witnessing what's happening to me? Am I losing my mind? Am I making this up? And does anyone understand? And I know we've all asked that question. And so over time, I've learned that when we are truly stepping into ourselves, if we don't pay attention, we miss the opportunity to connect to her, to whoever that is, to me, to myself. Even in this season, there's so many things that are changing, so many things I'm excited about, but there's so much heaviness also associated. The grieving of this past life that I had, the grieving of the things that I was comfortable with, to being in a space of being uncomfortable. A lot. There's a lot of sadness. There's moving. There's fear. And so if we focus too much on that, we miss these opportunities of like, hey girl, like, you just did a big thing. Did you celebrate? And I just had my 30th birthday. So did you celebrate? No, not really. I did a little. But anyway, so the question of the day, in our dialogue of connecting with each other is, what is the medicine of your soul? And so I ask that because when we're in those seasons, there's a certain medicine that helps guide us through those seasons, that helps to heal us, helps to support us on our journey. And so what's the medicine of your soul? And I think a lot of that is about getting to know yourself. And so if I asked you that, what would you say? Um, so when you think about it, what do you need to feel at home in yourself, like to ground you? What heals you? And then what are the side effects of the healing journey for you? And so I know that question is a little confusing because it's like, what do you mean the side effects of the healing journey? But if you think about medicine that we know today, typically there are side effects associated with it. It may be something you need, something you've been prescribed, and maybe the benefits outweigh the side effects, but there are still side effects. And so for me, I like to identify my side effects so that I can know my triggers. Like, if I'm going through change, if I'm going through transition, I know my anxiety is about to flare up big time. I know depression might hit. I know that the fear is going to go crazy. And so those are some of the side effects of me going on a healing journey. Is that the things that I am trying to heal are also going to be the things that hinder me. But the biggest one for me has always been fear. And so, backstory, 10 years ago, I was in college and I had my first panic attack. I was in the cafeteria. I was by myself. Whole big whoop-de-whoop, called the ambulance. Didn't know it was a panic attack. Found out it was a panic attack. And it was a pretty big deal for me. And what it did was ignite this deep sense of fear in me that I didn't know I had. And so it scared me. I thought I was dying. And then after all the drama about learning what it was, I then had to deal with how my life was going to shift because of this new thing. Because it didn't just happen and then go away. It happened, and then that fear of it happening again stayed and sat with me. Like, even to this day, I think it still sits with me. And so I would have these mini, like maybe I had that major one and I'd have these mini panic attacks randomly throughout the day, or as I started falling asleep, I would jump out of my sleep. And so I just was, I was really struggling. And I remember crying, calling my mom all the time. So it was a big deal. My friends didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. We were all just figuring it out. I was in college. I wanted to have a good time. And that good time was like, you got to focus on this. So it definitely took a lot of attention. Makes me think of what was my medicine, what got me through that season. Because typically a lot of the medicines, we find different medicines that we get used to, that we learn help our situation, help our bodies, that we know function well in our bodies. And so identifying what those are would help us get through different difficult seasons that we may experience, or even joyful experiences, seasons that we have. And so I also think about like herbal medicine. And so the idea of herbal medicine is to support. And as a herbalist, you're taught to look a little deeper, find the root cause. So I'll say that. Find the root cause. And even still, in doing that, for me, fear came up again. And so I know a lot of side effects are more associated with pharmaceutical drugs, but whatever your medicine is going to have some sort of side effects. And so for me, my medicine, even from an herbal standpoint, if you look at it from that view, is still fear. And so fear everywhere. Fear. So, so what was my, did I say my medicine was fear? My side effect was fear. Anyway, so what was my medicine in that season? What did I learn was a part of my medicine? Because that's what it was. It was a learning season so that I could identify what was the medicine that heals me, what is the medicine that supports me, that helps me, that provides for me, that shifts the atmosphere for me. And so it became three things. So one was my community. And so these were the people who were there for me, even though they didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. They cried with me. They listened to me. They sat with me. They sent me encouragement. They checked on me, my therapist, friends, family. And, honestly, my mom was really big in that season because she was always present. She was crying. She would sit on the phone with me while I cried. She would talk me through it. She would look at the research. She would figure out all the things she could figure out about anxiety and what was going on. And then my sister, who was a therapist, was also there for me big time in that season because she kind of already understood what was going on. And so I leaned heavily on my community. My sister, in fact, confirmed that I was not dying or losing my mind, that life was happening, and I was just more aware of what was happening. I could feel it all over my body. And, you know, I was dealing with, honestly, the side effects of that awareness. And so that was one. It was my community. And so two was tea. Like, that is when I first got into tea. That is when I got into herbal tea because I couldn't have caffeine. And so I would buy different packs of tea from the store, grocery store tea, just to, like, I was looking for whatever would calm me down within reason, because I'm also a very skeptical person and I don't try a lot of risky things. So it was tea. That was the option. So I just found different herbal teas in the store. And then from there, I got into loose leaf tea. So then I just started trying different blends. And, you know, that took me from one level to the next level to the next level. And here I am today. Second time around starting a tea business. But that's another point. But yeah, so I got into herbal tea. I remember I would have to call my mom late at night and, you know, we'd talk and she'd be like, well, try to get up and make you some tea. And so I'd make some tea. I talked to her for a little bit, and then I would feel a shift. I would start to ease into my body, and the racing thoughts would kind of settle a little bit. And so that brings me to my number 3, which is prayer and meditation. And so at some point I had to get off the phone. I had to let my mom go. I had to let her get her sleep, and I had to move through what was happening. Me and God, we just had to figure it out. So I leaned into prayer, and I was having deep, sorrowful prayers like the Psalms of David. Like, you know, like really begging and pleading, like, I need help with this. Like, I'm really struggling with this, God. And I just need some rest. Like, I need sleep. I'm one of those people, I need my sleep. If I don't get sleep, I'm just cranky, I'm uncomfortable, I don't feel good. All those things happen. And so I'm going through a season where I'm consistently not getting sleep. I'm already dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with depression, and it's just making it even worse. And so, like, these prayers were desperate. And so I would have my tea, and I would say a prayer, and I'd lay in my bed, and then I'd wake up and it'd be the morning, and I'd be like, what? I would literally be shocked every time I fell asleep, because that's how bad I felt before I fell asleep. Like, it just was impossible. And so I would relax enough, whether it be 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, I would get some sort of sleep, and I would be grateful for that, because that's what I prayed for. I just needed something. I needed my brain to stop for a few hours, and it would work out every time. And it was this combination: community, tea, and prayer and meditation, every time, without fail. And so that became my medicine for that season, and it honestly carried me through different seasons. And so I reflect back, and in every season, this has been 3 staples that I've leaned on heavily, and it's a reminder for myself now that that's what I need to lean on now. And even with the prayer and meditation, that is my grounding space. And so I've been finding in this season, I've been needing to do it outdoors. I've been sitting in the grass, I've been laying in the grass, I've been walking in the grass, and doing my prayers out loud, doing meditation outside. And so while you can shift those things up, and maybe you introduce new medicine to yourself, maybe you extend what that means, you expound on it. And I think honestly that's what's happening for me, whereas I thought this was, because I remember going back to church more when this happened, and I remember focusing specifically on, like, okay, I need to connect to God, I need to go to church, I need to do this, I need to do it like this, and realizing that for me it was the connection to spirit, connection to God, like connection to that which created me, because it was about connecting to my purpose. It was about centering myself long enough to hear the voice of God, to know what it is that I needed to be doing in this season, what it is that I'm healing through, what it is that I'm moving through. And so I say that now 10 years later, because I have a little bit more perspective, and I see what I'm dealing with now, and I see why I'm dealing with it now. So I know so pretty much it took me a long time to realize what I was experiencing was a transformation. And it was deeply spiritual. It was a call to something. It was a call to do something, to move through something. And I really think that anytime we go through those seasons, that's really what it is. It is a deeply transformative time. And the struggle that most of us have is what to ground ourselves in. And so whatever your beliefs are, that's when it's time to kind of rein in on those, because whatever speaks to you is speaking to you heavily in that season. And so, I really feel like I was being shaken awake. Like, I didn't realize that I was asleep. And I just been sleeping through my life. And it wasn't like my life was bad, or, it was just, this was not, I wasn't awake, I wasn't present, and I wasn't doing it with joy. And so I was not walking in alignment with who I am. And here I am again, 9 years later, with the same thing of like, we can no longer do that. And so, it's really about embracing what is authentically you, because that's what you were sent here to do. And so I think we're led to exactly where we need to be. And I remember that was the season I learned about the word synchronicity, which I use all the time now. It's kind of a word that I have coined as my Malaysia phrase, and it was one of a family friend who was kind of passing by, who kind of witnessed what I was going through and was like, introduced me to the word. And it became this, I got a tattoo of it and everything, but it became this significant reminder that God is working on my behalf, that there are things that are aligning for me specifically. Everything that was happening for a reason, and that there were no coincidences. These feelings, these emotions, this transformation that was happening to align me to a higher, a deeper purpose, and because that's what's important to me. And so one of the things, I don't know if you're into astrology, but if you are, in Aries, we are very passionate and purpose driven. We believe that we all have these sacred callings, these higher purposes. And for me, I wasn't living in that. I wasn't walking in that. That's very important to my life, and I was not aligning with that. And so without, and for anybody, it's hard to live without a purpose or passion or direction. And for me, as an Aries, it was deeply resonating with my soul, or should I say dysregulating with, because I was not engaged in either, passion or purpose. And so it's almost like you're being shaken awake to take that journey. We have the task of journeying deeply within ourselves. And so when we focus on ourselves, the world lights up around us. And I'm speaking for me as an Aries. I think this is natural for most humans, that we are, we have a light within us that needs to be shared with other people. Because we have our own medicine to share with people. But even, for me, it was like you burn with this passion, and everyone is able to feel the warmth. Don't argue with me, argue with your mama. That's what they say about Aries. We got a burning passion that is meant to be spread, that we are the light. But that's what it really felt like, that there was something inside of me that was just really big, and it was burning. And I remember reading this thing talking about, like, if you don't, your gifts can either save you or they can kill you. And then I had another conversation with somebody who was like, we have a light within us, and if we don't shine that light outward, if we don't share that light, it'll burn us from the inside. And I'm just like, okay, message received. Like, I've heard it many times. And so for me, I feel like that's what happens when I'm not utilizing the gifts. When you're not standing in your truth and your power, you are burning on the inside. And other people may be getting a lot of good from you, but you're not, because you're burning. Like, the inside of you is literally dying. And so that is the call to action, is to honor your sacred calling. I'm gonna call it your sacred calling. Honor your walk, honor your inner self, because to me, our heart space is where we connect to God. Like, that is where we hear God's voice. I've always asked, how do you know you're hearing God's voice? How do you know what God wants you to do? And when we learn to get in touch with our heart, we don't miss God's voice, because God's voice is within us and speaks to us, So the question of the day, the meditation part, because we had the question, what do we meditate on from this? Always got birds flying around me. Now, why y'all right here? because that's kind of, yeah. Okay, so consider what the medicine of your soul is. Consider if it heals you or it covers the wound like a band-aid. Are there side effects of your journey, and how do you handle them? What are the side effects of your healing journey? What is your medicine? Yeah. Thank you for joining me on my first episode of A Sage Named Simone, Center Sage. I think we should call this Center Sage. Yeah. Thank you for joining me at Center Sage.